It's very nice to be thought of as being pretty, as being, it's a plus. It's nice. It's not terribly important, but it is nice to have it in your favor.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate your time. So I wanted to come on here and talk about this statue that popped up in Times Square, New York a few days ago, and I believe the statue is actually called the generic black woman. Like, I've been trying to Google it, and because like the statue is not modeled after anyone, and when I've watched like news reports on it, they say she's meant to be like whoever, like when you see her, she's meant to represent whoever. So I wanted to give my commentary on this really quick because I see obviously people are having their different reactions to it. There's definitely people who are flat out being racist and showing that they just hate the statue because it's a black woman. They're applying a bunch of stereotypes to her. Yes, again, I want to acknowledge before I move forward that people are definitely showing their racism, showing, the stereotypes that they subscribe to. Okay, sure, and as well as fat phobia and all the other things, all the isms and things. Okay. But also, shockingly, I'm seeing a lot of people of color, black women, obviously, in particular, who like the statue, which is shocking to me because the statue, to me, it seems like it's meant to mock us. Like, that's what I said. I was trying to do research and figure out, like, what the hell?
A new statue in Times Square we're told, turning heads. It's making people not only stop and stare, but also reflect. A rare feat in the middle of one of the busiest places in the world. Zinnia Maldonado shows us why.
At 12 feet tall, in the middle of Times Square, stands a bronze sculpture of a young woman.
It's instantly stood out. It's powerful.
It's so tall and big.
The sculpture, created by artist Thomas Price, was unveiled at Duffy Square last week, and in just a matter of days, it has stopped hundreds in their tracks. Who is she? Well, technically, she's whoever you want her to be.
Me being a plus-size black woman, I kind of looking at it was like, oh, I wonder what me as a small child would have thought looking at something like that. Representation.
The piece is part of a series called Grounded in the Stars, which Gene Cooney, director of Times Square Art, says confronts preconceived notions of identity and representation.
To have this work here is making a statement, potentially asking questions about what we value as a city, as a society, and hopefully it's a tribute to our shared humanity.
Tourists and New Yorkers we spoke with expressed different interpretations of what she represents to them.
It's a plus-size woman. I'm a plus-size man. I'm African-American. It's an African-American woman statue. So just seeing another piece for me to stop and just have a moment with was
right. So you saw some of people's different reactions. The person saw it and just said, oh, it's really tall. Then you had a plus-size continental African woman who said that, she sees herself and it's empowering, and then you had what appeared to be a queer plus size black man. So it's like they absolutely cherry picked the people they interviewed so they could get certain comments. 100%. Because in New York, I'm sure they had other types of comments pop up, but of course they didn't show them. But I've been seeing the discourse online, and I just don't understand why there are any black women, plus size or not, that don't see this for exactly as what it is. Editing key here. So when I first did my reaction, I was seeing mixed information about the sculptor being a sculptor named David Marcus, which is a white Latino. So that's who I thought did it. But I came to realize that it was confusing because he did another piece that's in the Times Square area. The actual sculptor is a black man by the name of Thomas J. Price. And he has done other works. Like, when I went to his Instagram, some of the other pieces that he's done, I think, are beautiful and inspired. So, but I think this is just more a reflection of the fact that I didn't think anyone black would participate in this mess. But yes, the sculptor is a black man named Thomas J. Price, and he was absolutely involved. He absolutely makes these types of sculptures of people of color, of black people in particular, of everyday black people. This is kind of his niche. So yes, I'm going to go on, and my commentary is going to seem or reflect like how I thought when I first started reacting, where I thought it was two white people involved. But I just wanted to come in and say that no, this is a black man who is the artist for this sculpture, for this piece. And then the art director of the project is a white woman. So we have two people who were involved in the creation and the inception of this art piece that are removed from the content as well as the subject of this statue, right? So to me, this statue absolutely just 100% when I look at it. It doesn't empower me. It doesn't make me feel happy. It doesn't represent representation to me because it's not even a plus size black woman looking beautiful. She looks like she has an attitude, like she's upset. And to me, that plays into stereotypes. That is not something that I would think somebody would make an admiration of whatever black women represent to them. To me, she fulfills a stereo. It's quite literally like a meme, like those memes where the black women have their hands on their hips and they going, That's basically what she looks like. Like to me, it looks like almost like a Hottentot Venus, where it's like rooted in clear racism and stereotypical mindset. So to me, when I look at it, it's regressive and insulting. Nothing about the statue is admirable, is paying homage. It just doesn't make sense. And the execution of it to me is kind of where I find the devil in the details, because it's kind of like when you are playing video games and you get the one black character and they have like two hairstyles and the skin packs and the hairstyles look crazy, or they got the typical chunky looking afro, or they typically give them the Killmonger. And you think to yourself, it was no black people or people of color behind this game development, was it? No. Yeah, it's just a bunch of white people coming together and basically using what they think about black people and what they have absorbed and their secondary understanding of the black experience, and trying to come up with things that would be sufficient to black people. So yeah, like that's what this gives me. Because here's the thing, right? Say if they wanted to do the same, a similar concept, why not do a statue that highlights the extremely rich Caribbean, Afro-Latino, Latino, Hispanic culture that permeates New York, right? So there are so many Boricuas, there are so many Afro-Latinos, like there's so much there that they could have drawn from that would have had not only cultural significance to the people who live in New York, who frequent Times Square, but it also could have demonstrated the beauty of black women. So, right, they could have made a statue that was a bamba dancer.
Was created by Africans enslaved in Puerto Rico. Unlike other dances, with bomba, the drums follow your movement.
Dicen la negra Martina que brinca por los palacios, cayó dentro de una olla, de bandazo entre las mallas. De bandazo va ella, de bandazo anda ella, de bandazo. Ay, que de bandazo.
They could have made a statue of, maybe even like a bahia, which is, more associated with Afro-Brazilians, but something that would have displayed like Afro-Latin Caribbean culture. They could have literally put her in like a beautiful like hoop dress with like the ruffles and like the beautiful head wrap with the off the shoulder. Like she could have been, had a drum, a maraca. Like that could have been the direction that they went in if it was truly meant to represent something that was positive, that was uplifting, that showed admiration. Instead, they chose what they perceive is the average Black woman that's plus sized, standing with her hands on her hip. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Like, that's crazy. And this is what I mean when I say, like, a lot of times on the left, stuff be so tone deaf, because whenever identity is reduced to literally just that, like checked boxes, and you're having people who believe because they are educated and have matriculated through, a 4-year degree college and potentially master's degrees, and they've studied this and studied that, and gender studies this and African American studies that. And a lot of times what you typically find is people interact with the content in a way that is not personal. So they collect and gain the knowledge to be able to tell it or say it or represent, like, hey, I'm not racist. Hey, I know about African American studies. I took an African American studies class. Oh, I know about this. Oh, I know about that. I'm woke. I'm not racist. But they don't actually spend time interacting with the material, as well as gaining knowledge and appreciation on a human sense for the content in which they are engaging with. They're not engaging with it outside of an academic context. And that's why you can, as a woke or liberal white person, you can have knowledge of certain things, but your execution will still come off as racist and tone deaf because you're not interacting with it correctly. And so all your goodwill and all your virtual signaling ultimately backfires, because this is not edifying, right? This is not something that shows the best of Black women. I'm going to just be 100% honest. This looks like someone took a stereotype and said, "Ooh, I'm going to have this plus size Black woman with her hand on her hip scowling. She's going to give representation." And here's the trick that white people love to play, right? This is what I noticed when I was a model. Like, I noticed this right away. Like, a lot of times white people understand that perception is reality. And so while in real life, when you're at the store, when you're at the playground, when you're at the mall, when you're getting something to eat, when you're at the market, when you're in a restaurant, even when you're at work, you see average looking white people, right? Beak noses, dirty blonde hair, or that typical like light brown hair they have. They overweight, they chubby, they look peach, they look, kind of flabby and this is how white people look. When we see them, most of the time, white people just look like regular people. They look like regular, average, overweight, like I said, blotchy, rosacea. They're not exceptionally beautiful or highly on the genetic scale, right? But when you see white women in magazines, and when it's time to represent beautiful white women or attractive white men, they know to pick their best, right? Even if it's just a made-up concept, they know, okay, we have to represent ourselves in this way, and this will change the perception or even hide the truth of what we actually look like. And that's why a lot of times Black people and people of color, we have this perception of white people where they're on a pedestal, because that's the imagery that we've been fed since forever. And so that's why we view them as smarter and more attractive and all this other stuff, until you come to the understanding and realization that that's not true. But all of us at some point grow up feeling that pressure or that influence to think of white women as beautiful, think of white men as better. And that's because, like I said, they understand the psychology of representing your best when it's time to represent your race or your group of people. So they would never even have a statue like this, because they understand, while this may accurately represent the average white woman that's overweight, that's dumpy, that's, just average looking, we're not going to represent her though. We know she's there. Yeah, she's there. But that's not who we're going to let represent white people, white women. Whereas a lot of times when it comes, like I said, art, and specifically that field of, I guess, academia and where art like kind of cross over or come to an intersection, you have a lot of these like pseudo knowledgeable people who act as if they know what they're doing because they took the classes and read the articles and but the execution is always poor because at the end of the day they understand that they can present black people any kind of way, and most likely in a negative way, and then they can trick us into believing, oh, this is just real, this is authentic, I understand y'all. And that's why you have people on socials and obviously in the news clips saying things like, oh yeah, like I see myself. I would never look at this statue and see myself, never, because I'm not a stereotype. And I don't even look at that statue and see other black women that I know, even that are plus size. Stereotypes absolutely like make my butt itch. They are so offensive to me when I see them. And like I said, that's how I know this offering wasn't sincere, because there's so many other directions they could have went if they wanted to pick a black woman, if they wanted to check boxes, if they wanted her to be plus size, they wanted her to be black. There's so many other ways that this could have gone other than where it actually ended up going. Once again, similar to what you see a lot of times in these like Marvel films and like other franchises where they try to check boxes and get, cookies and virtue signaling points for casting a black lead. But then, like I said, the execution is never good. And so then this person just becomes, a conduit for attacks and racism because the execution is poor. So it doesn't matter if she checks boxes. The execution was terrible. The end product is not good. And so now, not only the statue, but black women are now a subject to be mocked on the internet. So it's just contributing to negative stereotypes. It's contributing to what's already going on social media. It's not changing it. It's not transforming it. It's not saying like I said, had they gone with like a bamba dancer, it's not starting a conversation like, oh, what is that? Why is she wearing that outfit? Oh, there is a culturally rich Afro-Latino and Hispanic and Caribbean culture in New York. Wow, I didn't realize that. No, that's not what's happening. You have people who are deluding themselves that this is good. They should make them proud and make them feel empowered. And then you have people who are like me, who are like, what the hell is, what in the world? What the hell are y'all saying? Like, what is this? And then you have other people who are just using this as an opportunity to be racist, to be insulting, to be nasty, because that's who they are anyway. And imagine creating art that triggers that, right? So the artwork that I'm assuming was done with some type of good intent, now it just becomes a meme. Now it just becomes a point of mockery. So this is what you have contributed to the black community. Nothing. But what we already have, which are problems and racism and issues and poor imagery and poor depictions of ourselves. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's all I have to say on this. Get below. Comment, tell me what you feel, what you're thinking, what were your reactions to this. Let's be respectful and let's speak to each other like mature adults. Okay? Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.